Let me start by saying this. Patience is power, and the ability to command desire without giving it away immediately is one of the most potent tools any woman can ever possess. Picture this. I had a masculine, confident, high-value man who thought he knew the rules, who thought he could move fast, who assumed that access equals influence. But I didn't play that game. I made him wait. 120 days. 4 months of deliberate, luxurious withholding that wasn't about cruelty. It was about strategy, clarity, and absolute self-respect. And in those 120 days, something extraordinary happened. The energy between us shifted in ways he never anticipated, in ways that left him questioning himself, his desire, his own patience, and ultimately, his capacity to value a woman who knew her worth. Let me take you behind the scenes, because what I'm about to share is not some watered-down, oversimplified dating advice you see on social media. It's an authentic masterclass in feminine strategy, in power, in understanding the unconscious psychology of masculine desire. The first week, he was intrigued. I kept my communication sparse, my responses measured, my presence magnetic but unattainable, and I watched him recalibrate his energy. His intentions, even his perception of time, seemed to slow around me. By the second week, curiosity had transformed into anticipation. By the fourth, he was observing patterns, analyzing moments, sensing that something vital was unfolding, something that required his patience, something that wasn't going to be handed to him. And here's the psychological magic. Masculine men, especially those who are used to control and instant gratification, are neurologically wired to respond to scarcity and delayed reward. Carl Jung once said that what you resist not only persists, but grows in sizing by not giving him what he expected. By holding my own rhythm and pace, I amplified his desire exponentially. I wasn't cold. I wasn't manipulative. I was simply rooted in myself, in my standards, in my own energy. And every choice, every pause, every silent moment became a high-value signal that communicated, I am not here to perform for you. I am here to live fully as myself. And if you wish to participate, you will have to rise to meet me. And this, my sisters, is where most women fail. They surrender their energy. They rush intimacy. They lower standards. And they wonder why the men they desire never seem to show up fully. The first lesson of 120 days is simple. When you value yourself enough to be patient, the universe conspires to make sure only the right energy reaches your space. Now let's get into the real dynamics, the chemistry of waiting, and why it's so transformative for masculine desire. During those 120 days, I didn't just withhold. I curated my energy, my attention, my environment, and the very way he experienced me. Think of it like a private gallery. Each interaction was a masterpiece. Each smile, each word, each fleeting glance carefully orchestrated to communicate value without desperation. I remember one evening in particular, a high-end restaurant with soft lighting reflecting off crystal glasses, where he finally looked at me differently. Not just attraction, but awe. There was a subtle shift, was no longer chasing in a conventional sense. He was analyzing, reflecting, imagining, projecting desire, building anticipation in ways that made our eventual connection electric. And this is the philosophical twist. Luxury, patience, and strategic withholding do not create scarcity, they create alignment. Men are drawn to women who are whole, who do not need them to validate their existence, who move through life anchored in their own rhythm. And when masculine energy encounters that, resistance gives way to respect, fascination, and yes, sometimes obsession. By day 60, I noticed changes in his communication, asked questions, sought my opinions, subtly tested my boundaries, all unconsciously, all without me instructing, because masculine energy wants to measure the value of that which is worth waiting for. By day 90, the dynamic had completely inverted. The man who initially believed he could have me instantly now recognized that I held the pace. The power, the standard, and he had to meet it. This is not manipulation. It is feminine strategy rooted in clarity, sovereignty, and emotional intelligence. It's knowing that attraction isn't built through compliance, but through presence, energy, and the architecture of desire. The final weeks before our intimate connection were almost cinematic tension. The anticipation, the silent acknowledgement of my boundaries, all converged into a moment so charged, so rare, that when it finally unfolded, it wasn't just sex or intimacy, it was recognition. He wasn't just attracted to my body. He was captivated by my energy, my patience, my unshakable sense of self-worth. And here's the psychological truth that most women overlook. Masculine men are not weakened by rules, or manipulation, or drama. They are weakened by a woman who is deeply rooted in herself, who does not bend to satisfy their impatience, who does not chase, who does not perform for approval. By making him wait, I communicated value in the purest form. Every day of those 120 days reinforced my sovereignty, amplified my presence, and deepened his investment not just in me, but in the emotional and psychological dance that only a woman of high standards can orchestrate. And the final lesson, the one that makes this 120-day strategy the best decision I ever made, is that patience cultivates power. When I finally allowed him access, not rushed, not granted impulsively, but earned through energy, anticipation, and alignment, it was transformative. He was not just present. He was present fully, intentionally, reverently. The dynamic had shifted completely. He was attentive. He was committed. He was emotionally present. And every interaction thereafter was grounded in mutual respect and admiration. I remember sitting across from him after those 4 months, candlelight reflecting off polished surfaces, and feeling the weight of the energy shift had been tested, and he had risen to meet the standard, which is exactly what feminine strategy demands. And this is why I encourage you, my sisters, do not be afraid to hold your standards, to withhold access, to let anticipation build. In a world where instant gratification has become the norm, the woman who moves deliberately, with clarity, with presence, is magnetic beyond measure. This strategy is about teaching, guiding, and anchoring both yourself and the men you engage with in the language of respect, patience, and high-value energy. And when you master it, you stop settling for attention that doesn't match your worth. You stop compromising your standards, and you begin to attract connection that is deep, real, and aligned. So I want you to internalize this. Making him wait was not about proving something to him, it was about proving everything to myself. It was about cultivating anticipation, commanding desire, amplifying my feminine power, and teaching masculine energy that it must rise or it will fade away. And as you leave this video, as you carry this energy into your own relationships, comment "I needed this" if you feel that shift. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember this principle. Your energy is a currency more valuable than any word, touch, or action. Patience is not passive, it is strategy, sovereignty, and self-love in motion. Walk into your life with this knowledge, with this power, with this standard, and I promise you, the men, the opportunities, the connections that align with your value will appear, fully, deliberately, reverently, because you have chosen to respect yourself first. And that, my sisters, is the ultimate lesson of 120 days, best decision I ever made. The kind of strategy that transforms desire into devotion, attraction into reverence, and fleeting interest into meaningful connection. Let me tell you, the beauty of making him wait isn't just in testing patience, it's in sculpting the very energy he experiences. Every glance, every carefully timed message, every pause in conversation, every day I held my own rhythm reinforced the reality that I am not negotiable. That my time, my presence, my body, and my attention are precious commodities that only align with energy worthy of them. Imagine him imagining you in ways you haven't even acted yet, filling in the gaps with desire, intrigue, curiosity, all because you refuse to bend, to chase, or to over-explain. And the power of this is intoxicating not just for him, but for you. You realize, slowly but irrevocably, that your value is not determined by his willingness to act or speak, but by the standards you carry and the energy you emit. And every moment you honor that energy, you are literally cultivating devotion, attraction, and reverence that is rare, magnetic, and irresistible. I watched him move from frustration to fascination, from casual attention to deliberate investment, and the subtle shift in his posture, in his tone, in the way he leaned in just slightly closer every micro-expression, told me that desire, true desire, cannot be rushed, cannot be demanded. It must be invited, nurtured, and amplified by presence and patience. This is not manipulation. This is mastery. This is the kind of feminine power that commands without force, that seduces without effort, that awakens masculine energy to its highest potential, because it mirrors what he himself craves unconsciously. A woman who is whole, sovereign, deliberate, and unapologetically anchored in her own rhythm. And as the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, I realized the lesson that many women never learn. When you honor yourself first, when you refuse to compromise your energy for attention, when you embody patience as power, masculine energy doesn't just follow, it aligns. It deepens, it reveres, and the connection that finally manifests is richer, more magnetic, more transformative than anything instant gratification could ever produce. So, sisters, internalize this. The 120 days were not about himthy, were about cultivating my own sovereignty, my own allure, my own standard of love. And the universe rewarded that fidelity to self with energy that respected, cherished, and amplified every ounce of my feminine power.